On my brother's wedding day, he treated me like a complete outsider. To make things worse, my greedy sister-in-law demanded that I give her $15,000 immediately to pay for her honeymoon. When I refused, my brother lost his temper. He grabbed my hair and slapped me hard across the face, yelling, "How dare you refuse my wife?" What hurt me even more was that my parents sided with them. Heartbroken and angry, I walked away, but I wasn't giving up. The very next day, I delivered a shocking surprise that turned everything upside down. My name is Lisa. If you're wondering where this story begins, it starts in Houston, Texas, in a house that was never truly mine, even though I lived there my entire life. It was a place of both laughter and cold indifference. My parents, Patrick and Olivia, loved their children, or rather, one of them more than the other. My older brother, Mark, was the golden child, their pride and joy, while I was merely an afterthought. Growing up, Mark could do no wrong in their eyes. He was the heir to our father's small but profitable construction company, the future of our family's name and legacy. My role, on the other hand, was clear. I was to marry, move out, and eventually become part of someone else's family. To my parents, daughters were temporary members of the household. I'll never forget the day Mark graduated from high school. My father presented him with the keys to a brand new car, grinning ear to ear. "This is for you, Mark," he said proudly, "because you've worked hard and you deserve it." When I graduated a year later, I received a card with a half-hearted, "We're proud of you," scribbled inside, and a vague promise to help with college someday. I knew my place. Mark was the star, and I was the supporting act, but I couldn't live that way forever. When the opportunity came, I left Houston and moved to New York City for college. I enrolled in a business administration program, juggling classes and a part-time job as a data analyst to make ends meet. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it. The distance gave me a chance to be free from the constant comparisons and overshadowing presence of my brother. My parents barely kept in touch, except for occasional calls filled with updates about Mark's achievements. Mark had joined the family construction business and was already making a name for himself. "He's doing so well," my mother would gush. "You should call him sometime, Lisa. You could learn a thing or two." I would nod, bite my tongue, and hang up. It was always the same story. Then, one evening, I received an unexpected call. It was Mark. "Lisa," he said, his voice bubbling with excitement. "I'm engaged. Her name is Anna, and she's amazing. I can't wait for you to meet her." I was stunned. Mark rarely called me unless it was for something trivial. He and I weren't close, and I couldn't help but wonder why he wanted me involved now. Still, I congratulated him and promised to attend the wedding. When I met Anna, I immediately sensed something was off. She was beautiful and polished, the kind of woman who commanded attention without trying. But there was a coldness to her, a calculated way she carried herself. I couldn't shake the feeling that she cared more about Mark's money than him. Mark, however, was smitten, blind to anything but her charm. The wedding preparations were nothing short of extravagant. Anna's family contributed generously, but so did mine, especially my parents, who went above and beyond to impress their future daughter-in-law. I tried to stay out of it, knowing my input wasn't welcome. Every time I spoke, Anna would give me a dismissive smile as if to say, "Know your place." The wedding day arrived, and the venue was breathtaking. It was held at a grand hotel in Dallas, with towering floral arrangements, crystal chandeliers, and an air of luxury that screamed money. I kept to the background, as usual, trying not to draw attention to myself. As the wedding ceremony unfolded, I couldn't help but feel like an outsider. The guests were high society elites, dressed to the nines and exchanging pleasantries about the perfect match between Anna and Mark. I stayed in the back, clapping politely when needed and smiling when someone noticed me. After the vows and a lavish dinner, the reception began. Anna and Mark basked in the attention, dancing under the spotlight as their families fawned over them. I remained near the dessert table, hoping to get through the evening unnoticed. But fate had other plans. Anna approached me with her signature fake smile. "Lisa," she said sweetly, "I'm so glad you came. You've always been such a supportive sister." I narrowed my eyes slightly, knowing there was more to her words than just politeness. "Of course, Anna," I replied, keeping my tone neutral. Her expression turned sharper. "Mark and I were talking earlier, and we realized something. It's only fair that you contribute $15,000 to our honeymoon fund. I mean, your family after all." I froze. "Excuse me." "You heard me," she said, her voice dripping with entitlement. "Mark and I think it's the least you can do to support us." Mark appeared at her side, nodding in agreement. "Yeah, Lisa," he said, crossing his arms. "It's not a big deal. You've got a good job now, and we could really use the help." I shook my head in disbelief. "No, that's not happening. I worked hard for my savings, and I'm not giving you $15,000 for a vacation." Anna's smile vanished. Her eyes flashed with anger as she took a step closer. "Wow, Lisa, are you seriously this selfish? It's no wonder your family barely talks about you. You've always been jealous of Mark and me." "Jealous?" I shot back, my voice rising. "You think I'm jealous of this circus? I'm not handing over my money just because you two decided to live beyond your means." Her face reddened, and she opened her mouth to retort, but Mark beat her to it. His expression darkened as he grabbed my arm roughly and yanked me forward. "You're embarrassing us," he growled. "Stop acting like a child and do your part." When I refused to back down, he grabbed a fistful of my hair, pulling hard enough to make me stumble. Before I could recover, his hand came down across my face with a sharp crack. The slap echoed through the room, silencing the chatter around us. My cheek stung, and tears welled up in my eyes. "You're a disgrace to this family," Mark shouted. "You've ruined everything." I stood frozen, stunned by the sheer audacity of his actions. My parents, Patrick and Olivia, rushed over, but instead of defending me, they sided with Mark. "Lisa," my father said coldly, "just go. You've caused enough trouble for one night." I looked at them, my vision blurred by tears, and realized I was completely alone. They weren't just condoning Mark's behavior, they were actively supporting it. Humiliated and betrayed, I left the venue. As I stepped outside into the cool night air, I felt my tears finally fall freely. My parents, my brother, even Anna, they had all made it clear I didn't belong. The slap wasn't just physical, it was a symbol of how little I meant to them. When I returned to my apartment in New York, the pain consumed me for days. I couldn't sleep, couldn't focus, and couldn't stop replaying the events of the wedding in my head. But as the pain lingered, it began to morph into something else: anger. I wasn't just hurt anymore, I was furious. I refused to let them treat me this way and walk away unscathed. If they thought I would quietly accept their behavior, they were wrong. I had always been the overlooked daughter, the one who never stood up for herself, but not anymore. It was time to fight back. With resolve burning in my chest, I reached out to my best friend, Julie, who had always been my rock through tough times. I recounted every detail of the wedding day, from Anna's outrageous demand to Mark's violent outburst. Julie was livid. "They can't get away with this," she said firmly. "You've put up with their nonsense for far too long." I nodded. I'm done letting them walk all over me, but I don't just want to stand up to Mark. I want to expose Anna. There's something off about her. I can feel it. Julie agreed, and together, we hired a private investigator to dig into Anna's background. If there was even a shred of dirt to be found, I was determined to use it to bring her down. After weeks of painstaking investigation, the private investigator delivered results that left me both stunned and vindicated. Anna wasn't the picture-perfect woman she pretended to be. She had a trail of fraudulent activities behind her, including embezzlement, credit card fraud, and even ties to a fake investment scheme. Her wealth wasn't just inherited, it was built on lies and illegal activities. Armed with this evidence, I contacted the authorities. They launched an investigation into Anna's finances and business dealings, quickly uncovering enough to warrant her arrest. Within days, Anna was taken into custody. Watching her face plastered across the news in handcuffs was a moment of sweet justice. A few days after Anna's arrest, Mark called me. His voice was uncharacteristically subdued. "Lisa," he began hesitantly, "I don't even know how to say this, but I'm sorry." I remained silent, letting him continue. "I didn't see it. I didn't see who she really was, and I didn't see you. I've treated you terribly, and I can't undo the past. But I want you to know I'm ashamed of what I've done." His words were a step in the right direction, but they didn't erase the years of pain he had caused me. "Mark," I said finally, "your apology is a start, but it's going to take a long time for me to trust you again." "I understand," he replied, his voice heavy with regret. "I filed for divorce. I know it doesn't fix everything, but it's a start." Just when I thought the nightmare was over, Julie called me with unsettling news. "Lisa," she said, her voice filled with urgency, "Anna's out on bail. She's using her connections to twist the story and paint you as the villain." I felt a surge of anger and disbelief. Anna wasn't just trying to save herself, she was actively trying to destroy me. According to Julie, Anna had fabricated lies, claiming I was behind her financial crimes, and that my actions stemmed from jealousy and a vendetta against her marriage to Mark. Fueled by anger, I knew I had to act quickly. I gathered all the evidence the investigator had found, including documentation of Anna's fraudulent activities, and handed it over to my attorney. I also worked with the authorities to ensure Anna couldn't manipulate the legal system further. The court proceedings were intense. Anna's lawyers tried to shift the blame onto me, but the mountain of evidence against her was overwhelming. Bank records, forged documents, and testimonies from her past victims painted a damning picture of her crimes. Mark testified in court, admitting he had been unaware of Anna's illegal activities, but fully supporting the case against her. It was one of the few times I felt he was genuinely on my side. In the end, the judge saw through Anna's lies. She was convicted of multiple counts of fraud, embezzlement, and financial misconduct. The sentence was severe, 10 years in prison and a hefty fine to repay her victims. Watching her led away in handcuffs for the second time was a moment of immense relief and closure. With Anna behind bars, the dust began to settle. Mark made a sincere effort to rebuild our relationship, attending therapy to address his behavior and genuinely apologizing for the years of favoritism and neglect. It wasn't easy to forgive him, but over time, I saw his remorse was real. My parents also tried to make amends, though their apologies felt less genuine. They acknowledged their mistakes, but struggled to truly change. I kept them at arm's length, choosing to focus on my own healing rather than their approval. I realized that my strength came not from their validation, but from standing up for myself. I had reclaimed my dignity, exposed the truth, and ensured justice was served. Months passed after Anna's sentencing, and life in New York took on a new rhythm. My apartment, once a quiet refuge, now felt alive with possibilities. I had taken a leap and started my own consulting business, helping small companies navigate data and analytics. The experience I gained juggling college and work was now paying off, and for the first time, I felt like I was shaping my future on my own terms. Julie remained a constant in my life, her unwavering support reminding me that family wasn't just about blood. It was about the people who stood by you when it mattered. Together, we celebrated every milestone, no matter how small, and dreamed about what was next. I reconnected with my passion for painting, something I'd set aside during the chaos of my childhood and early adulthood. My tiny apartment's walls began to fill with bold colors and abstract shapes, expressions of freedom I'd never felt growing up. Art became my therapy, a way to let go of the pain and create something beautiful in its place. Mark and I spoke occasionally. True to his word, he was working to rebuild our relationship. Therapy had softened the sharp edges of his personality, and while I wasn't ready to forgive everything, I saw a glimpse of the brother I'd always wanted. He even supported my new business by referring clients from his own circle, a gesture I never thought I'd see from him. As for my parents, their apologies felt hollow, but I'd learned not to seek their approval anymore. They were part of my past, not my future. I kept my boundaries firm, ensuring they couldn't pull me back into the toxic dynamic that had defined my childhood. One crisp autumn afternoon, I stood on the balcony of my apartment, watching the golden hues of the sunset reflect off the city skyline. I thought about the Lisa who had left Houston, invisible and powerless, and the Lisa I had become. My life wasn't perfect, but it was mine. A life built on hard work, self-respect, and the courage to stand up for myself. I turned back to the living room, where a blank canvas waited on my easel. Picking up a brush, I dipped it into vibrant red paint and began to create. The past might have shaped me, but it didn't define me. I was free to write my own story, one bold stroke at a time. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you never miss out on more amazing stories like this one. Your support means everything to me, and I can't wait to share more with you. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next video.